Pain Never Dies, an original short story by B.B.Gibbs. It was an old, dilapidated Greek revival that sat at the edge of a vast cotton field in the rural southern town. It had been abandoned for as long as anyone could remember, and its faded true blue paint and rotten porch gave it an ominous appearance. But for the young couple, Jesse and Sarah, it was a perfect home to start their new life together. They had been searching for months for people that would sell to them, and when they stumbled upon the house, they knew it was fate. Despite the warning from the locals about the house being haunted, Jesse and Sarah decided to take the risk. They began to renovate the house, but it soon became clear that something was not quite right. Strange noises echoed through the halls at 3 a.m., and objects would move on their own. A faint, rotten, burnt odor moved about the house, from room to room. Jesse and Sarah tried to ignore it at first, dismissing it as their imaginations, but the strange occurrences only grew worse. One night, Sarah woke up to find the room filled with an icy green mist. She could see her breath in the air and felt a chill run down her spine. She looked over to Jesse, but she was fast asleep, unaffected by the strange phenomenon. She tried to shake her awake, but she wouldn't budge, no matter how hard she tried. Jesse was dead to the world. The next morning, they discovered strange symbols etched into the walls of the living room. They looked like they had been made with dried blood and were almost impossible to decipher. But Sarah, having a Haitian background, recognized some of them as veves. Jesse and Sarah knew then that they were dealing with something beyond their understanding. They tried to leave the house, but every time they got in the car, the electric vehicle refused to start. But really, where could two women go in the middle of a hurricane, in the night, in the dark? They were trapped, and they knew they had to face whatever was haunting the house. That night, they lit white candles, sprinkled holy water about, read aloud the 23rd Psalm several times, and sat in the living room with a huge silver crucifix, waiting for something to jump off. It wasn't long before they heard the cacophony of many footsteps coming from upstairs. The footsteps grew louder and louder until they were pounding on the floor above them. Jesse and Sarah made their way up the stairs, bracing themselves for whatever was waiting for them. They entered the room at the end of the hall and found themselves face to face with many ominous black figures dressed in tattered clothing, their dark faces all twisted in an expression of rage, and their bulging eyes glowed with an unquenched hatred. The Hanks began to speak in pounding voices that echoed through astral dimensions. They spoke of past injustices, broken families, burnings being pulled apart with ropes, and of a time when the land had been stolen from its rightful owners. They spoke of a curse that had been placed on the blood-soaked land, a curse that would never be lifted. Jesse and Sarah knew then they had to leave. They took nothing with them and ran from their house that night into the storm, never to return again. But they could still feel the presence of the ghostly figures following them, their ragged breath as cold and hard as grave dirt, scratching on the backs of their necks as they ran. A year later, the house still stands at the edge of the cotton field, its true blue paint faded and peeling. Locals still tell tales of a haunted house and the curse that lingers over the land, but nobody dares to enter, for fear of facing the wrath of the restless, revengeful spirits that remain within.